بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Here, permit me to, let me just follow the tradition, stand on the already established protocols. Well, the topic today presupposes the indispensability of the home in governance. And according to Islam, governance is a collective responsibility. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said in a tradition that he gave us an analogy. He said, "In a group of people traveled in a boat and became divided. Some sat in the front, some in the middle, some on the right side, the left side, and at the end of the boat. And a man brought out an axe and he wanted to perforate the place where he is sitting in the boat. They said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Huwa makani, asnabi mashit." It's my space. I can do whatever I like there. The Prophet ﷺ said, if they seize his hand and prevent him from making a hole in the boat, naja wa najaw, he will be saved and they will be saved. But if they leave him, believing he has an unbridled freedom to do whatever he likes, halaka wa halaku, he will be destroyed and they will be destroyed. It's something that affects everybody. One of the problems I have personally observed is the fact that many a time when we talk about bad governance, we blame leaders, forgetting the fact that leaders, every leader bears the imprint of a home. Every home is the universe in microcosm, and it is the home that gives you most of those values that later, that you later interpret into actions. So in reality, in view of this, I think the real challenge is how do we achieve a total, a complete, and a more wholesome value change? How do we change our values? The home itself has been destroyed also because of bad governance, because when poverty exists in a system to such an extent that they find it very difficult to survive, you redefine values in the home. So it's a big problem. So it's interconnected. So what do we do? I think the journey towards value change begins in the home, and it should also reflect in the schools. At the primary school level, it should be translated into nursery rhymes, you should find it in storybooks. And Lagos State government did something very strategic recently when they insisted that we return to the use of our local language. One of the problems, I teach Arabic language. In language studies, one of the problems is that when you ignore the use of language, you ignore a lot of things, particularly African languages. African languages hide their values in their languages. But most of us have committed the crime of insisting on the use of English language in even our homes. Our children no longer understand our language. And one very beautiful thing about our language is that within these languages, we have hidden all those moral precepts which will serve as character builders for children, that will give them directions. And like most of the good examples we can really talk about today are those people who had the opportunity of using Yoruba language when they were growing up, or Hausa language, or Igbo language, or whichever language. Those who had that opportunity are those who really have access to the right values. In nursery rhymes, for example, in English language, when the nursery rhymes are directed at adjusting the tongue, making the tongue adapt to the language. Whereas in our own case, these are character builders. So you cannot compare, for example, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are. You cannot compare it to Ishe Ni Ogunshe, Morasi Ishe Oremi, Ishe Lafi Deni Giga. You cannot compare it with These are values that are hidden in these nursery rhymes, so that these things will continue to serve as guide for the young growing mind. So today, the average child, the average Nigerian youth is a comfort seeker. And we all have committed the crime of insisting, I do not want my children to suffer the way I've suffered. And at the end of the day, what happens? they don't become as wise as you. There are some, when we were growing up in Lagos here, there were some very big names we have had. The Darochas, the Bankanthoni, they have children. Even Abiola's name is disappearing if it has not completely disappeared. Why? The children have not been able to sustain those achievements because they never suffered the way the father suffered. They lived in comfort, they lived in ease. And the teaching of Islam is that's Quran chapter 53, verse 39. Allah says, man shall have nothing but that which he strives for, that which he struggles for. It's a global principle. If you do not suffer, it is not going to be easy for you to achieve anything. You strive, you struggle, you struggle, you toil before you reach the threshold of achievement. That is, it's a global principle, and that's why you read in Isheni Ogushe, they say, "Onti akobaji yafuki tojo, onta ba farashishe fun nekelo." You must be ready to pay the price. No pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. As you have it in Yoruba, you have it in every other language. In Arabic language, when we were growing up, we learned because they took tasabul ma'ali. In accordance with the amount of suffering, you attain lofty heights. And whoever seeks a lofty station does not sleep at night. Similarly, students of English literature will still remember Alfred Lord Tennyson. He was the one that gave us the rhyme of the timber. He said the tree that never had to fight for sun and sky and air and light, that stood out in the open plain and never got a share of rain, never became a forest king, but lived and died a shrubby thing. If you must climb the stairs of glory, you must be ready to suffer. You must be ready to struggle. And you can only plant that in the children when they are growing up. So when we talk about leaders, the fact is we have not really prepared anybody to become leaders. So let's go back and start doing that. May Allah make it easy. Assalamu alaikum.
Kabirullah, for anybody that has always